It's now very clear that Japan has effectively nuked the United States. As ironic and sad as that is. My grandfather was a sea captain in the Battle of the Pacific, and he fought the Japanese head-to-head. And he stated that they were the toughest race of people on the planet, and he had fought in several wars. And I remember as a child being horrified at the pictures of the atomic bombs that the Americans, that we dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And my grandfather always felt it was a crime to use such weapons of mass destruction against such a noble people. And this was coming from a guy who actually fought them. His friends were killed by them. But he had such respect for the Japanese that he always thought that that was a crime. And although this is certainly not the fault of the Japanese people, this is no less a crime that's occurring all across America now. And certainly this event lacks the drama of the mushroom clouds and burnt victims that the American bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima did. And yet, in a way, this nuclear dirty bomb that we've witnessed wafting across the entire North American continent and the world for that matter over the last month is actually much more widespread. And I've been amazed at the amount of radioactive iodine that we witnessed in rainwater throughout the entire North American continent. I mean, you know, this rainwater right here that just fell this afternoon, you know, this is cancer-inducing liquid here. This is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 times the EPA maximum for radioactive iodine. And even regions as far away as Massachusetts have found 33 times the levels of radioactive iodine in their water. And I'm 10,000 miles away from Fukushima. And if you drink the water, the rainwater here, you are risking cancer. It's amazing to me. I had no idea. I've learned some things over this experience. And I thought I was pretty well versed in the basics of nuclear fallout. After all, I grew up in an age when the threat of nuclear war with the Russian Empire was a daily, it was a reminder daily. You were reminded daily by your parents and elders that on your way to school, on your way to your friend's house, the Soviets could attack at any time. Anytime. And now I worry about my own kids. You know, they're growing up in a world where I don't feel safe allowing them to play in a mud puddle, because I'm not sure what the repercussions might be to their thyroid. And it's not just rainwater. We're now getting reports out of California that drinking water is at 181 times accepted limits and maximum limits. And, you know, I just read an article this afternoon that stated that 13 cities tested all across the United States now have radioactive iodine in their drinking water, not rainwater, drinking water. So, although the media has been very busy explaining to us all that there's absolutely nothing to fear, the reality that the scientific research is showing is quite a different story. And much more concerning to me has been the increasing findings of cesium, not just on the West Coast, but throughout the country. I've watched for weeks now the graphs of the cesium flowing into California, flowing into Oregon, flowing into my home state of Washington, and Idaho, and Utah. And at times, those graphs have shown a fairly thick covering of cesium flowing into those states. And Cesium has a half-life of 30 years. So, you know, this is a radioactive isotope that's going to be around for 300 years with a standard multiple of 10 that's usually given to radionuclei for toxic concerns. You're looking at, you know, 30 times 10, 300 years. This material is going to be a concern to you and your family and your children. And, you know, I was a kid when Chernobyl blew off. You know, I was a diaper dandy. And do you realize you still, to this day, cannot go into that region because it's so hot? You still cannot eat the wild game in Eastern Europe because of the cesium that was released by that explosion 25 years ago. In fact, I read an article a few weeks ago that was stating that, you know, the title was Radioactive Boars on the Loose in Germany. And these boars, one of the fiercest creatures in nature, by the way, these boars have so much cesium in their bodies that their meat is classified as toxic waste, if you can believe that. Toxic waste. So, is this the fate of all the game and animals in North America, or certainly the West Coast? Most disturbing of all is the cesium now being found in milk in areas far and wide. I have found reports of cesium in milk in Washington State, Colorado, and today I read that they are now finding cesium in dairy milk in Vermont. And there are currently, most likely, little pieces of Fukushima floating around the bodies of all of us right now. So I view this as actually a great concern. And I wonder, you know, if you consider the fact that this Fukushima plant has 6,000 nuclear rods there. 6,000. Even if they get these rods cooled off, which I believe takes up to 2 years, do you realize that that's going to be an unknown amount of total radiation spewing across North America? It's going to go on for months and months and months. These fires are going to burn for months and months and months. And they're going to continue flowing into California. They're going to continue flowing into Utah and Massachusetts and Ohio, where we